This is the Palin Update on SarahNet Radio. I'm Kevin Scholla.
And we would hope that the leadership in Congress, especially within our own party, that they would start at least accepting and really appreciating what these Tea Party members have done. And I would like to see them in leadership positions.
Sarah Palin flexes those endorsement muscles once again, helping a true conservative retire an aging rhino in Indiana. Now the governor's backing two more Senate candidates, Deb Fischer in Nebraska and Ted Cruz in Texas. We'll talk to Fischer today about the Palin support and her campaign in the Cornhusker state. Meantime, Cruz already seeing the results from the Palin approval. And Sarah Palin once again proving she's worth her salt, giving the keynote address at the annual SALT, or Skybridge Alternatives Conference in Las Vegas. We start today with a woman who has that coveted Palin endorsement in her back pocket now as she seeks the GOP nomination for U.S. Senate in Nebraska. Currently in the Nebraska legislature, Deb Fischer is with us on the Palin Update on SarahNet Radio. Thanks for being here.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.
You received that coveted Palin endorsement this past week, and we know how powerful a nod from the governor can be. I'm sure you're thrilled?
Oh, yes, very excited. It's continued the momentum for our campaign because Governor Palin is so respected.
Now, I think the Palin seal of approval here in this race could prove to be even more powerful than usual because you're locked in a race that's tight between multiple opponents. So this endorsement could possibly give you that extra edge here in the home stretch.
Well, we're hoping so. This is a very, very tight race. There's 6 candidates, 3 credible candidates that have been out there working hard, and so this endorsement by the governor is very special.
Now, your endorsement then followed shortly after by an endorsement of Ted Cruz in Texas. Both of these come just after Richard Murdoch shocked the establishment and buried Dick Lugar, who's been hanging around the Senate since the Carter years. Palin endorsed Murdoch. He was a guest here on the Palin Update. That must have given you a current first-hand reminder of just how huge Palin power can be.
Well, yes, we certainly appreciate it. As I said, this is a very tight race, and we're working hard getting our message out. You know, I'm not the usual politician. This is my first statewide race that I've run for. I've been in the legislature here in Nebraska for 8 years, but I'm a rancher from the Sandhills in Nebraska, and we have a great grassroots campaign, and I believe that's what attracted the governor to our campaign, and again, I just certainly appreciate her endorsement and that of her husband.
That was my next question, Senator. What do you think made you an appealing candidate to Sarah Palin? Do you have some rogue in you?
Well, some people might say that. I think it's just because I'm not your usual politician out there. I haven't been running for the U.S. Senate for forever like a couple of my opponents in this race. As I said, I'm a wife of 40 years. My husband and I ranch in the Sandhills. We have 3 grown sons that are back on the race, and I've been a citizen legislator here in the state of Nebraska for 8 years.
One of your opponents claims he's the real conservative here. I assume you disagree, and I would think the fact Palin is behind you shows you're right.
Well, we're pretty conservative in Nebraska. Republicans are, but I would put my record up against anyone's.
Speak to Nebraskans, Senator. Why is Deb Fischer the one they can trust, especially now with such a bad economy nationally, awful gas and grocery prices, and low morale?
Well, I've been effective as a state senator. I've been effective as that citizen legislator. I take on tough issues. I build consensus with my colleagues. Here in Nebraska, we have a unicameral legislature, one house only, and we're nonpartisan. So you have to be tough. You have to know your business. You have to understand the issues and work hard and build that consensus if you're going to pass those big policy issues. And I've been successful in doing that.
You've said you know how to get things done. You've said you'd be the best matchup against the Dems in November. And my favorite, you've said you'd term limit yourself. That's a breath of fresh air. We've had Chuck Woolery on the program here who runs Restart Congress and many others, and term limits keep coming up as an issue. Our forefathers didn't want people staying in office forever, did they?
No. I mean, we believe in public service, and that's what we need to see in Washington again. In Nebraska, we have term limits. Again, it's for 2 4-year terms. And it works. When you're elected, you realize you have a limited amount of time to serve your constituents and serve the people of the state. And so you roll up your sleeves and you get to work. You take on those tough issues. But you also go home then. And we need to see that in Washington. And so, yes, I support term limits at the federal level. I believe in the U.S. Senate it should be limited to 2 terms.
How do your rural roots come into play here? Is that a voice that's been lacking in the Beltway?
I believe so. I believe it has. In the United States Senate, there are now 50 U.S. senators that are lawyers. I don't think there's a rancher in the United States Senate, so I would be the first rancher. And, rural Nebraska, rural America, the values we have, the common sense we have, that's important. And I believe that's a voice that's been missing in the United States Senate. So I would sure like to take it there.
I think we really see a lot of parallels here, right? I mean, you talk about the type of state Nebraska is, and then you look at Alaska, and you look at Sarah Palin's outdoor activities with the fishing family and her hunting background, and here you are talking about being a ranch hand and, out there getting your hands dirty and then, wanting to go to Washington and clean things up. So, you could look at it that way, I guess. But I really believe there is something to that. I know it attracts a lot of people to Sarah Palin, somebody that they believe is someone who's talking to them from the heart, not a politician reading off a teleprompter like a lot of people say about the president right now. So is that something you found talking to your potential constituents here and the voters, that they are feeling I with you as a person, not just a politician?
Well, I believe so. I take time when I campaign, and I visit with people and listen to their concerns. My legislative district, it's the largest in the state of Nebraska. It is the size of New Jersey. So I have a very large, sparsely populated district. I put on about 25,000 miles a year just covering my legislative district. So I know what it is to have distances involved as you're traveling and trying to listen to the people of your district or the people of the state. But it's important that elected officials and the candidates get out there and listen to people. Constituents have a lot of common sense. And people in Nebraska, they understand the issues. They have that common sense. They know what we need to do to turn this country around and to get our economy growing again.
And when you are out there listening to people that do have this common sense, what are they worried about? Is it really overwhelmingly jobs, or are there other issues that you're also hearing in Cornhusker country?
Well, what I hear most is the out-of-control spending that we see in Washington, and everything else stems from that. We have out-of-control spending. We need to balance a budget. Here in Nebraska, we have a requirement that we have to balance our budget. I've done that for 8 years as a state senator. We need to address that over $15 trillion in debt at the federal level. And to do that, of course, we need to let small businesses grow, back government away. Let those small businesses grow. Let them create jobs. And then, of course, from that, we need to, as I said, back government away. We need to reduce regulations, have government reduce energy costs, reform the tax code, repeal Obamacare. We need to promote free and fair trade, and we need to reform Washington.
That's a great point, Senator. You see people, everyday Americans, who just can't believe what goes on in Washington when they're at home trying to balance, their checkbooks, no matter what they're making, their monthly budget to put food on the table and take care of their children and whatnot. And here you look, I just had my deck power washed and taken care of, and that was a painful check to write. And I said, where's my debt ceiling when I want to raise things here, too? So having people like you could probably, at least get us on track to putting a stop to a lot of this nonsense. What's your website?
It's Deb Fischer, and Fischer is Fischer, 2012.com.
Wonderful. Deb Fischer, she can do this, folks. She has Palin power, and now she needs your help from the great Cornhusker State. Deb Fischer, thanks so much.
Oh, thank you. It's been a pleasure visiting with you.
Hit the website, folks, debfischer2012.com. That's Deb Fischer, Fischer, 2012.com, a Palin-powered candidate. Another U.S. Senate hopeful, fortunate enough to grab a Palin endorsement, is already seeing that big Barracuda bounce. Ted Cruz of Texas. The Cruz campaign reports a huge reaction to the Palin news. Not only is there a big buzz about the governor endorsing Cruz, but according to Cruz's campaign manager, contributions are pouring in and supporters are more excited than ever. Palin issued a statement saying Cruz's conservative principles, passionate defense of our Constitution and our free market system come at a time when these cornerstones of our freedom and prosperity are under attack. Our shared goal isn't just to change the majority in control of the Senate, but to assure principled conservatives like Cruz are there to fight for us. Cruz is the former Solicitor General of Texas and one of 9 Republicans running for the nomination. So, just like Fischer in Nebraska, this endorsement could make a world of difference. The Texas primary is May 29th. One man has already enjoyed what a Palin endorsement can do. Richard Murdoch beat Obama's favorite Republican, Dick Lugar, in the Indiana U.S. Senate primary this past week. Lugar has been in Washington since the 70s, but Murdoch, a common-sense conservative and Palin-backed candidate, routed Lugar. Palin helping Murdoch in a successful rhino hunt. Now remember, the work for Murdoch far from over. He now faces a very tough general election campaign, so be sure to visit richardmurdoch.com and give him a hand. richardmurdoch.com, that's Murdoch, M-O-U-R-D-O-C-K. The Murdoch primary win shows real results from Palin and the Tea Party and real hope for Palin-backed hopefuls like Deb Fischer in Nebraska and Ted Cruz in Texas. Sarah Palin delivered the keynote address this past weekend at the annual SALT conference in Las Vegas, an annual gathering of top economic and world leaders. Reps with the SALT conference say they're committed to facilitating balanced discussions and debates on macroeconomic trends, geopolitical events, and alternative investment opportunities within the context of a dynamic global economy. The SALT conference provides an unmatched opportunity for attendees from around the world to connect with global leaders and network with industry peers. And Governor Palin joins a star-studded list of former SALT conference keynoters, including Presidents Bill Clinton and George W. Bush, as well as Governor Mitt Romney. Folks, you can follow us on Twitter at SarahNet Radio, and we're now on Facebook, too, so please like SarahNet Radio on Facebook. And if you want to really stick it to the left, pick up one of our new SarahNet Radio bumper stickers. Just email us, send your name and address, and we'll send you one of our great-looking new stickers. Go to SarahNetRadio.net and click on free SarahNet Radio bumper sticker. Well, that'll just about do it for this edition of the Palin Update on SarahNet Radio. Visit SarahNetRadio.net for continuing coverage of Governor Palin. I want to thank everyone here at SarahNet Radio. Thanks to Deb Fischer. And thank you for listening today. Please be sure to join us next time for another edition of the Palin Update. I'm Kevin Scholla. Have a pleasant day.